Noah stepped into the small coffee shop to escape the cold morning, expecting nothing more than caffeine and silence, but the moment the door closed behind him, a strange feeling settled in his chest, as if the day had already decided to change course without asking him first. The place smelled of roasted beans and quiet routines, people typing on laptops, couples murmuring, a normal scene that should have meant nothing. Yet something pulled his attention forward just as the barista lifted a cup and called out a name that stopped his breath, Emma, a simple name spoken without meaning by a stranger, but to Noah it landed with the weight of a memory he had locked away for years, and he told himself it was coincidence, that names repeat, lives cross without reason, and that he was tired and imagining things, but his eyes lifted anyway, and that was when he saw her standing near the counter, holding her phone, unaware. Real in a way memories never are, her hair shorter, her posture more confident, but her face unmistakable, the face that once filled his future plans, the face he had tried and failed to forget. Time collapsed in that second, carrying him back to late nights and shared dreams, to laughter that felt safe, to the night she left and the silence that followed, and before he could think or stop himself, his body moved, his voice saying her name softly, almost afraid it would break the moment, and when she turned, the surprise in her eyes mirrored his own, shock giving way to something deeper, something unfinished, and neither of them spoke right away, the noise of the cafe fading as if the world respected the weight of what stood between them, years of distance and words never said pressing into the air, and Noah noticed how she held her cup, the small habit of curling her fingers around it, something she used to do when she was nervous, and he realized she felt it too. This sudden collision of past and present. Emma finally said his name, quiet and careful, as if testing whether it still belonged to him, and he answered with a smile that didn't quite hide the ache behind it, wanting to say everything at once but knowing none of it would come out right, and before either could gather the courage to speak honestly, Emma's phone rang, the sound sharp and unwelcome, pulling her eyes away, and Noah felt the moment slipping. Felt panic rise as she glanced at the screen and then back at him with conflict written across her face, her lips parting. As if to explain, to apologize, to promise something, but instead she shook her head slightly and said she had to go, her voice tight with regret, and Noah watched helplessly as she picked up her coffee and walked toward the door, leaving behind questions that burned just as much as they had years ago, and for a second he thought that was it, that fate had shown him what he lost only to take it away again. But just before she stepped outside, Emma paused, turned back, and looked at him one more time, her eyes holding something hopeful and unfinished, something that told him this was not an ending but a test, and then she was gone, the door closing softly, leaving Noah standing alone in the middle of the cafe, heart racing, hands cold, realizing that a chance encounter had reopened a story he thought was over, and as he walked out into the morning light, he understood one thing clearly, meeting Emma again was not random, and whatever came next would change his life in ways he was not yet ready for. The night after seeing Emma, Noah couldn't sleep, his mind racing with memories, questions, and a strange mix of hope and fear. He kept seeing her face, the curve of her smile, the way her eyes lit up when she laughed, and he remembered how it felt to hold her hand, how it had felt when she left without explaining, leaving a silence heavier than words, and he realized that 10 years hadn't dulled the ache, only made it quieter, easier to ignore, but now it was shouting, demanding attention, and he pulled out his phone on impulse, scrolling until he saw a number he didn't recognize, then hesitated, heart hammering, but finally answered, and a familiar, gentle voice said it was Emma, unsure if it was still his number, and in that moment, everything rushed back, the laughter, the fights, the promises, the heartbreak, and the emptiness that had followed. They agreed to meet the next day, and Noah arrived at a quiet park with autumn leaves drifting down, the crisp air carrying the faint smell of river water and damp earth, and when she walked toward him, he realized she had changed yet stayed the same, her expression cautious but open, her presence both comforting and startling, and for a few minutes, they spoke as strangers, trading safe words about work, the city, small details, while beneath it all lingered the tension of a past unfinished, the emotions of years spent apart ready to surface, and then Noah, unable to hold back, said what he had wanted to say for a decade, "You disappeared. I didn't know how to reach you," and Emma's gaze fell, her fingers twisting her scarf, admitting that she had thought he didn't want her to stay, that she had felt abandoned, and the truth between them hung like a fragile bridge, connecting their pain and their longing, and Noah confessed that he had been scared too, that he hadn't known how to stop her from leaving without pushing too hard, that he had wanted her, missed her, but lacked the courage to fight, and for the first time in years. They laughed softly at their younger selves, awkward and fearful, yet full of love, and the laughter eased the weight for a moment, letting them breathe again, but only briefly, because the reality of life pressed against them, the ticking clock reminding them of the years lost, and Emma spoke hesitantly about how she was only in town for a week, how fleeting her visit would be, and Noah's chest tightened, realizing a week wasn't enough to fix the years, to answer the questions, to heal the wounds, yet it was long enough to ignite something dormant, to pull them close to the edge of emotions they had left untouched, and they walked together under the orange and red leaves, sharing stories of the lives they had lived apart, the people they had met, the mistakes they had made, and every word, every glance, carried more meaning than it should, because the past had made every moment heavy with possibility, with what could have been, and the park seemed to hold them in a bubble, separating them from the world, letting them reconnect without judgment or interruption, and when they finally parted, it was with a mixture of hope and fear, a sense that the week ahead could change everything or nothing, that the path forward was uncertain, that they would have to decide if the past was a weight or a guide, and as Noah watched Emma disappear down the street, phone in hand, bag over her shoulder, he realized that this reunion, unexpected and sudden, was not just a meeting, it was an invitation, a challenge, a chance to rediscover what had been lost, and he knew, deep down, that his life would never be the same again, because sometimes, the heart remembers what the mind tries to forget, and seeing her, talking to her, laughing with her after so many years, had opened a door that he could not close, and even if the week ended with her leaving, something fundamental had shifted between them, a recognition of love and loss, of fear and courage, and the fragile hope that perhaps, just perhaps, the story they had started years ago could continue, written now with honesty, understanding, and the willingness to choose each other again. The days they spent together passed in a blur of emotion, each one more intense than the last, as if time itself wanted to make up for all the years they had lost. Mornings began with coffee and quiet smiles, the kind that carried unspoken words, and afternoons melted into walks along familiar streets, autumn leaves crunching beneath their feet, their conversation flowing easily at times, yet occasionally stumbling over the weight of the past, the things left unsaid, the moments they had missed, and yet every glance, every touch of hands brushing, every shared laugh reminded them of what had never truly gone away, of the bond that had survived distance and silence, fragile but unbroken, and Noah found himself noticing details he had forgotten, the way Emma tucked hair behind her ear, the gentle tone she used when speaking about something she cared about, and Emma watched him too, seeing how he had changed, how life had shaped him, yet underneath it all, the same warmth, the same patience, the same heart that had once captivated her, and they talked about everything, the people they had loved, the mistakes they had made, the dreams they had chased, the fears that had kept them apart, and in those conversations, laughter sometimes broke through, lightening the heaviness, reminding them of who they had been, and who they could be again, and yet some nights were quiet, heavy with longing, the unspoken question of whether this reunion could last pressing down, and one evening, standing under the soft glow of city lights, Emma admitted something that caught Noah by surprise, that love was not about choosing someone once, but choosing them again and again, and he realized then that he had already been doing that, choosing her in his heart every day for years, and he told her so, his voice steady but full of emotion, and for a moment, the world around them disappeared, leaving only the two of them standing close, connected by history, by regret, and by hope, and they didn't make promises that night, didn't rush into declarations or decisions, but allowed themselves the truth, the honesty of what they felt, of what they had felt for years, letting it grow naturally, allowing it to breathe, and when the final day arrived, they faced the reality of parting once more. Standing at the airport with bags in hand, the noise of travelers around them fading as they focused on each other, Emma's eyes filled with conflict and vulnerability, Noah's heart aching but steady, and she admitted that this reunion had changed everything, that she didn't know what it meant for the future, and he held her gaze, saying simply that he didn't want to lose her again, that he had waited years for a chance like this, and their hug lingered longer than necessary, full of tenderness, longing, and quiet understanding. A hug that spoke louder than any words could, and as she walked away toward the gate, Noah didn't turn his back this time, refusing to let the moment slip entirely, feeling that what they shared in that week was a beginning, a bridge across time and distance, a spark of something real that could not be ignored. And as he watched her disappear from sight, he understood that life had given them a rare opportunity, that love sometimes returns unexpectedly to test patience and courage, and that even a short time together could leave a mark deep enough to change how they saw everything, how they saw each other, how they saw themselves. And he carried that realization with him, the bittersweet mix of joy and heartbreak, knowing that the days ahead would require careful choices, but also holding on to the warmth and hope that their hearts had remembered each other perfectly, that the laughter, the walks, the talks, and the quiet moments under the fading light had reopened a chapter they thought was closed, and that the connection they shared, forged by time and distance and rediscovery, could guide them towards something more. Something enduring, if only they had the courage to follow it. And in that week, fleeting as it was, Noah and Emma learned that love could survive absence, grow stronger in reunion, and that even the smallest moments, shared coffee, a touch, a laugh, could hold the power to change everything about a life that had once felt ordinary, making every second they spent together a seed of hope for a future neither of them could yet fully imagine but both secretly longed to embrace months passed after that fleeting week. But Noah and Emma stayed in touch, their messages at first cautious, polite check-ins that soon grew into long conversations stretching late into the night, full of laughter, shared memories, and the small confessions of lives rebuilt without each other, and slowly, deliberately, they began to plan visits, each meeting a careful dance of timing and trust, learning to navigate the gap that distance had created without letting it erase what had reawakened between them. Noah noticed the subtle changes in Emma, the calm confidence in her voice, the way she spoke about her work in Canada with pride but also with a longing that mirrored his own, and Emma watched Noah too, seeing how he had grown, how life had shaped him, yet the familiar warmth and depth remained, unaltered by years apart, and together, they shared mornings in quiet cafes, walks along city streets, evenings filled with conversation that meandered from trivialities to deep truths, exploring each other's worlds while rebuilding their own, learning to communicate with honesty and patience, choosing to listen and understand rather than react, and through it all, their connection deepened, no grand gestures needed, only presence, consistency, and the gentle certainty that they mattered to each other in a way nothing else could replace. One spring morning, Noah returned to the same coffee shop where their story had unexpectedly reignited, his heart beating faster than he expected, and Emma walked in, smiling, her eyes meeting his with that familiar spark, and she told him she had taken a new job, closer, here, where they could see each other without counting hours, and Noah felt a mix of relief and wonder, realizing that life had finally aligned in a way that seemed almost impossible months ago, and in that moment, he understood that this time it wasn't about chance, but about choice, that both of them had worked through fear and hesitation to arrive at a place where love could grow steadily without being rushed, nurtured by understanding, care, and patience. They didn't rush into declarations or dramatic promises, instead they moved forward slowly, building routines together, sharing quiet mornings, discussing dreams for the future, celebrating small victories, supporting each other through challenges, and in doing so, they discovered the beauty of a love matured, one that had endured absence, disappointment, and uncertainty, and now existed as something calm, certain, and deeply fulfilling, proving that the heart remembers what is truly important. That time and distance may delay a story but cannot erase it if the bond is strong enough, and Noah and Emma realized that their unexpected reunion had been more than a moment of nostalgia or longing, it had been the spark that allowed them to choose each other again, deliberately, consciously, and with full awareness of the lives they had lived separately, bringing all that experience, growth, and understanding into the love they were ready to share openly. Their story continued not with fireworks or sudden drama, but with everyday moments that carried weight because they were chosen, cherished, and mutually valued, proving that romance could be both passionate and steady, that emotional intimacy and respect could coexist with desire and connection, and that a life rebuilt together, founded on patience, communication, and genuine care, could surpass even the most vivid dreams they had held as teenagers, showing that love, when returned after absence, could grow deeper, richer, and more resilient than ever imagined. And as they sat across from each other in the coffee shop, hands brushing over the table, smiles exchanged in quiet understanding, both Noah and Emma felt a profound certainty that one unexpected reunion had not only changed their lives, it had given them a future worth living fully, a chance to write the next chapters together with hearts aligned, a love chosen every day, and a story that would continue to unfold gently, beautifully, and intentionally, in the way only true, lasting love can.